Hello, my name is Beth Dixon, and this is the third video of my series on box plots. Thanks to Vicki Borlaug for allowing us to use her PowerPoints to complete these videos. In the previous two videos, we've introduced box plots and outliers. An explanation is always better with an example. In this case, we have length in inches of some data of some parts. And we want to find the minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, and maximum, sketch the box plot without showing any outliers, calculate the interquartile range. Note the interquartile range is I equals Q3 minus Q1. Data values will be considered outliers if they are more than Q3 plus 1.5i or less than Q1 minus 1.5i. Number 4, check for any outliers and circle all outliers in the data list and sketch the box plot showing outliers. How do we do such a multiple step problem that's long and ugly? The same way we eat an elephant, one step at a time. Keep it simple. The first step is to find the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum, the 5-number summary. To do this, we want to use the calculator. And the first step is to input all the data into one list. We will press Stat, then choose Edit menu and Edit under the Edit menu. Now let me show you on the real calculator how to punch that data in. My calculator just turned off, so let me turn it back on. We're going to press the Stat button. Then Edit is already selected, and the Edit underneath here is already selected. So we can either press the 1 or the Enter, and that chooses the Edit, and we're in the list where we can edit. Now I already have data in my list, which I did on purpose actually, and I want to show you how to clear that. So we're going to move the cursor, which is the little black highlighted area. We call that the cursor, and we're going to move it up till it's on L1. Then we're going to press Clear and then Enter. Then I'm going to move my cursor to make sure everything's clear, and then I'm going to input my data. Now you can't see it here, but I can, and the list of numbers, I'll just type in 252, whoops, and I typed in the wrong number, so I'll just backtrack and type 252 and press Enter, then 262, Enter, 251, Enter. There are two 251s, so I press Enter, then 255, Enter, 254, Enter, 267, Enter, and notice it just keeps going down and scrolling down. I'm not going to go through all of the numbers. You will just continue till you have inputted all of the data. We have now got the data into the list. Next, we want to press and do one var stats list 1. We will press Stat, Calculate, and under Calculate, we will do one var stats, then second L1. We should get a screen that looks like this screen here at the top. We will then press Enter, and we will get these results. The down arrow will show us that there is more data to be had because it doesn't fit onto one screen. and we'll use the down arrow on the calculator to see the rest of the results. And we'll get at the very bottom, the last 5 numbers are 5-number summary. We will fill in our minimum, our quartile, our first quartile, our median, our third quartile, and our max. Now let's do that on a calculator. Now that we have our data in our list, we want to find out our 5-number summary, and I want to show you that using, again, the calculator. We've got our numbers in our list, and we can just go directly to pressing the word stat or the key stat. Use the over arrow to get to the menu calculate, and our first option there is 1 var stats or 1 variable stats statistics, and we can press enter or choose one, either one, and we need to tell it which list we want, and our data was in list 1, so we want to use the blue L1 here, and I'm not sure that's going to show up, so we're going to press second L1, but look at your calculator above the 1 key and you should be able to see that, and then press enter, and that will give us this screen here. Notice this screen here doesn't say anything about minimum or quartile, but it does have the down arrow, so we'll just arrow down, which tells us there's more information. Notice the up arrow tells us that we could arrow back up to the previous information. And at the bottom of the screen, we have the minimum of 241, the first quartile of 251, the medium 256, the third quartile of 261.5, and the maximum of 281. Let's go back to our PowerPoint now. Now that we have done it on the calculator, let's look at what our answers are. Minimum 241, first quartile 251, medium 256, third quartile 261.5, and maximum 281. That answers our first question. Find the minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, and maximum. Remember our rule. Keep it simple. The question asked, the question answered. Next, let's do question 2. Sketch the box plot without showing any outliers. Keeping in mind our 5-number summary at the top, let's draw a box plot showing outliers. Notice the scale. Ms. Borlaug, knowing our numbers were going and ranging from 241 to 281, decided to count up by tens starting at 240. Those were the large tick marks. In between, she counted up by 2s, 240, 242, 244, 246, 248, 250, and so on. Now, to do our box plot not showing outliers, we need to make a mark for 241. That'll be here. Then a mark for our 251 here. One for our median at 256. Our third quartile at 261.5, and again just estimate, and our maximum at 281. Those are our 5 numbers. We then want to draw a box around our inner 50%. So draw a box. Then draw your whiskers or your tails left and right. And we've completed the box plot with no outliers showing. Next, we want to calculate the interquartile range. Remember that the interquartile range is I equals Q3 minus Q1, and data values will be considered outliers if they are more than Q3 plus 1.5i or less than Q1 minus 1.5i. The interquartile range is the distance between Q1 and Q3. So, back to our 5-number summary, we just calculate the distance between 261.5 and 251. 261.5 minus 251 gives us 10.5. The interquartile range then is 10.5. Keep it simple. Asked and answered. We can also see the interquartile range graphically as the distance between Q1 and Q3. You find the distance by subtracting, and we could subtract that on the graph. Interquartile range equals 261.5 minus 251, 10.5. Last question. Check for any outliers and circle all outliers in the data list. And no, it's not the last question, which I realized as soon as I said it. Again, remember our note. Data values will be considered outliers if they are more than Q3 plus 1.5i or less than Q1 minus 1.5i. So we have our interquartile range. Next, we need to find Q1 minus 1.5i. This is what I like to call plug and chug. Take your numbers and plug in. What is Q1? 251. What is 1.5? Well, it's still 1.5. And I is that interquartile range we found in the previous problem, 10.5. Now that we've plugged in our numbers, just chug it out in the calculator and we get 235.25. Q3 plus 1.5i will give us our top fence, 261 for Q3, 261.5, excuse me, plus 1.5 I, and I is the 10.5. Plug and chug, we get 277.25. Are there any outliers? We will consider an outlier if it's greater than 277.25 or less than 235.25. Next, we can use the calculator to put the data in ascending order. Think about going up a set of stairs, ascending a set of stairs. On the calculator, you will type stat, edit, and under edit, sort A, choose that, then second, list 1, and close your parentheses. Your screen should look like this. And then when you press enter, your data, nothing will happen, and your data will then be in order, and we can go back to stat and then edit, and our data is now in order. Let's look at what that'll look like on the calculator. Okay, now let's show you how to sort on the calculator. To find that on the calculator, it's just so much easier to have the numbers in order. To find it on a list, I always overlook either the smallest or the largest. So we'll press Stat. And then notice under the Edit key, we have a Sort A and Sort D. A for ascending, for going up. D for descending, for going down. So we want to arrow down to choose number 2, or we could have just pressed number 2, either one. And so it says sort A. What do we want to sort? We want to sort list 1, hit second, and then L1 above the 1 key, and close the parentheses, and then press enter, and it just tells us it's done. But when we go back to stat and then edit and choose edit again, notice that our numbers are no longer in the order that we inputted them. They're in numerical order, and we can see that the first number on the list is 241, 243, and then 248. And if we arrow down to the bottom of the list, we can see that the largest numbers in our list are 270 and 281. And we get down and we know that that's the end of our list. Now that we have our data in order, it should look something like this. And we're interested in the very lowest numbers and the very highest numbers, looking for numbers that are greater than 277.25 or less than 235.25. Well, 241, 243, and 248, the lowest three numbers, are all greater than 235.25. And as we look at the highest numbers, the only number higher than 277.25 is the 281. No outliers in the left whisker, one outlier in the right whisker. And the right whisker will end at the next lower data value at 270. So yes, there are outliers, and that outlier will be 281. And we will now sketch the box plot showing that outlier. Remember, there are no outliers in the left whisker, and the right whisker has only the one outlier. And the outlier is the data value 281. The next right whisker will end at 270. Only the right whisker will change. So the left part of the plot stays the same. Put a star at 281. The right whisker ends at the next data value at 270. And we've answered that. Sketch the box plot showing the outliers. I hope this was helpful and not too long for you. And here is an example comparing two different farms and some questions that you can answer and practice with doing box plots. Thank you for watching.